Welcome to the Slow Living Collective podcast. I'm Amy, wife, mother of two and devoted homemaker. Join me on this journey as we explore the beauty of slow and simple living, where life unfolds at its own unhurried pace. I'll take you through my experiences of slowing down, tending to our allotment plot, finding joy in the little things and making the most of our small home. Together we'll learn to live in harmony with the ever-changing seasons, discovering the magic that lies in embracing the present moment. So let's embark on this enriching adventure towards a more intentional and fulfilling life. Everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Slow Living Collective podcast. I'm Amy and I'm so excited to have you here with me today. We are talking about something fun today. I think it's fun. I think it's really interesting, probably more than fun, and it's something that I think has probably been about 20 years in the making. And I want to talk about creators and working in like creative industries, particularly when it comes to working and creating in like an online capacity, because I've been doing this for nearly 20 years now, and something comes up to me time and time again, and it recently sort of came to the forefront of my mind again, and I just wanted to dive into it and just discuss it with you guys. I would love to know what you think. Remember, you can always head over to my Substack page. That's the slowlivingcollective.substack.com. There you will find all of the podcast episodes with their accompanying show notes. It has all the links of anything that I talk about during the show, and also, you know, you can leave a comment and we can have like a bit more interaction than me just blasting down your earbuds and me not hearing from you in return. Because the way I used to podcast, I used to use a different podcasting platform. It was all very much like one way. Like I had put out a podcast and there was sort of no feedback, as it were. But now I moved over to Substack in the summer, and now you've got that ability to create the posts that are sort of associated with it as well, and also have that ability to actually leave notes as well, or comments at least. And so yeah, head over there. That's the slowlivingcollective.substack.com, and you can leave me a comment, because I'd love to know what you think about this. So like I said, I have worked in like a creative industry like my entire career. I am a writer, copywriter, blogger, content creator. They are the things that I have sort of earned my living doing. And if you've only just like come across me in like recent times, like you're coming to me at a time in my life where my priority at the moment is raising children. And but prior to having children, that was what I did for my living. That's how I earned money. And I don't know if you guys have ever heard it, but I definitely have a number of times. Somebody will say, oh, but you're just a blogger or just a podcaster. Like, why are you charging for things? And I want to dive into that mindset today, because, maybe you're listening to this and you're like, no, I'm not a creator. Is this episode going to be for me? But I would love you to stay with me, because I think this conversation will just help us sort of understand each other more. So whether you are a creator yourself, or you're looking to be a creator, you want to create some kind of content or business online, then you might have either experienced this, or you may experience it in the future. Or if that's not you and you're just here for the like slow and simple living tips, you might know people like me who are creators, and you may have thought these things or had questions about things. So I would love you to stay with me and just listen to this episode and see where we end up. So that mindset of like you're just a blogger, or you're just a writer, or you're just a podcaster, and why are you charging for certain things that you do? It's a really common mindset, and I mean, I've experienced it in the entire almost 20 years that I have been doing this. But it's it's an unfair assumption, and it's really, really unsustainable. I mean, I've had people reach out to me asking, if I could just do a quick favour or if I can give them free advice. Back in the day, even work with them just for exposure. And while I get that they think they're helping me out, the reality is we can't pay our mortgage with exposure. And so a little while ago, I saw somebody on Instagram chastising people for creating content and resources and actually making money from doing so. And the general gist was something along the lines of, if you're truly passionate about helping people, then you shouldn't charge for your knowledge. You should just give away stuff for free. And they were sort of highlighting, how, some people do create free content. And I honestly couldn't help but cringe, because it's such an old school mindset, and one that really undermines the time, the energy, and the expertise that creators put into their work. And while I think it's great to offer free value, and I offer it in absolute abundance, I also think that it's completely okay and necessary to charge for some of that value when you're building a business. And this idea that creators shouldn't profit from their content really just sort of perpetuates the myth that passion and profit can't coexist together. Because in reality, the more we get compensated for the work we do, the more we can continue to offer even more value to our communities. So, I'm going to keep creating, and there are going to be things that I charge for, because it's my business, my livelihood, but also my passion and my hobby all rolled into one. And it's funny, really, because it also highlights, and like, the thing that I saw that I just said about somebody chastising someone for creating content and charging for it, it highlighted just how common it is for people not to grasp the value of a creator's time and expertise. Because as creators, we put our absolute hearts and souls into our work. And I think it's time that we stop apologising for wanting to be compensated for it. Because let's be honest, nobody else in the world is apologising for wanting to be compensated for their work. My husband goes out to work for a 9 to 5 job, and he has this immense value he offers in his line of work, right? He doesn't do it for free. They pay him for his expertise, right? He wouldn't be going out to work to a job if he wasn't getting paid for it. And it's almost like it's become like two separate entities. Like, everybody else is entitled to take a job and get paid for it, and get paid well for it, or adequately for it. What they are offering is, remunerated. And I think it's then this other group of like creators, content creators, maybe Instagram creators, influencers even, it's this idea that anybody in sort of a creative industry shouldn't be compensated for their work. And I cannot for the life of me fathom how we got here. So I want to dive in first of all and talk about the real reality of creating content, because it's not just about sitting down, typing up a quick blog post, or maybe recording a podcast while sipping on a coffee, because there's so much more that goes into it. For example, a single post, a blog post, a Substack post, even a newsletter, it can take hours to write, research, edit, format, and then promote it as well, because otherwise no one's going to read it, and that's before you even add in the time for taking photos, putting the photos in, graphics, maybe adding the links that you want to do. Like, it all takes time. A podcast episode like this one, don't even get me started. So brainstorming ideas, writing show notes, recording, sometimes re-recording because we've messed it up, editing out things, getting it ready for upload. It is work. And, I could easily spend my time, doing something else, but instead I spend it recording and editing this podcast. Why do I do it? Because I love it. And it's not just the physical work of it, but it's also the mental and emotional energy. You have to be on a lot of the time, constantly thinking about new ways to do things, to engage, to connect, to offer value. So often I will think of something like yesterday. I was in the car and I thought of a fantastic idea, but I was driving and I couldn't do anything. And I thought, as soon as I stop and pause, stop the car, I will write myself a little note in my notes app on my phone. Did I do it? No, I didn't. Do I remember it? No, I don't. So that's gone. Maybe it'll come back at some point. But it's just this idea. It is a full-on juggling act. And behind the scenes, it's me managing all sorts of stuff, deadlines for things. I promise to put out a podcast episode every Monday. That is my routine. Is anyone going to die if I don't do it? No, they are not. But that is what I promise. That is the free value that I offer, amongst many other things, which I'm going to go into in a bit. That's what I promise. That's how I wish to show up in the world. And so, there are deadlines. I am dealing with tech issues behind the scenes. The voice recorder on my camera, on my phone isn't currently working. So doing things like voiceovers, now impossible. And it's just all of those things, and also trying to be present with my family, because like I said at the beginning of this episode, actually that is where sort of I am in my life at this moment. Is my priority is raising my children, and this is secondary to that. So yeah, it's a lot, but I wouldn't trade it for the world, because I love what I do and I am definitely somebody who needs to do something. But creating content, it takes a lot. It really does take a lot. And I think what you'll find with most creators is they offer free content, and then they do offer some paid content as well. And we're going to go through the ins and outs of that throughout this episode. But I think when people have paid stuff, so take me for example, and the best example I have. So I have a couple of paid offers. I have my Slow Business Bundle, and then I have my Rooted in Seasons Slow, Simple and Seasonal Living course, right? And they are varying costs, and they are more of an investment than you will find in my free content. But I offer a lot of free content, a lot. But I think what people fail to realise when you have a creator who has like an abundance of free stuff and then paid stuff, people for some reason get turned off by the idea of that somebody is charging for their time and expertise, and they kind of forget how much free value is offered. So I was talking about this topic with my husband before it became a podcast episode idea, and I thought, you know what, I am going to break down a lot of the expenses of what I pay out for, but also things like if I was being paid for all of the content I create. Now, I would say my ratio is probably 90% of what I do is free, and then 10% is paid. And it might even be like more 95% to 5%. A lot of what I do is free. I offer a lot of free value. So I thought that would be fun to dive into. So let's talk about the hidden costs of free content, because it's not really free to make, right? Sure, I would love to give everything away for free, but there are actually some real costs behind the scenes. For example, as well as having Substack, I also have my own website, and my website it has to be hosted, and my website hosting isn't free. So that costs me around £90 a year. Okay, so not massive in a monthly way, that's what I have to put aside every year to pay for my hosting. I also have a few paid things. So I sell on Stan Store. So if you go to my Stan Store, it's, you know, this lovely sort of shop front idea. It makes it very, very easy to see what I offer and, you know, what's free, what's paid. But I have to pay for Stan Store. That costs me, it's billed in US dollars. It costs me on average around £24 a month. So that is also, you know, another paid thing that I have to pay for. And so I'm just going to break it down. So £80 divided by 12 is around £6.66 a month. Okay, so let's put £6.66, and then, like I said, around £24 for Stan Store. I also use my Flowdesk, which does all of my workflows, so it makes it very simple. If you don't know what a workflow is, it is basically if I say to you, like, oh, go and get my morning routine freebie, here's the link so you can download it. You go to a page, it says, you know, put in your name and your email address and it will arrive straight in your inbox. You're like, absolutely fine, I'll put that in. And then you would land in my workflow for that, which automatically, once you sign up for that, it triggers sending out that email with your freebie for you. So that is how I do a lot of my freebies, because I mean, it would be absolutely impossible to do it any other way. You could not do that manually at all. And so yeah, so that automatically sends out. I pay £14 a month for that, and that I could also use that for my newsletter as well. I used to use Flowdesk exclusively for my newsletter until I started Substack, which does a lot of the same things, but the workflow aspect to it is massive. So I absolutely couldn't live without that. And then I also paid $10.99 a month for Canva to do a lot of my graphics. What else do I pay out for? I use Lightroom, which is $9.99 for my photos. I can't think of anything else particularly off the top of my head, but that's an average cost of $65-64 a month, so not insignificant. And there might be other things as well. Recording this podcast, I bought myself a microphone, right? Not necessary at all. Something I did after, I think, about 60 or so episodes. I decided to get myself a microphone. You absolutely don't need one. If your phone microphone works, that is perfect. I used to just record using the microphone that is inbuilt in my computer, and I think that was fine too. You don't have to do anything fancy to start a podcast. But it still costs. It's still extra costs. I use iMovie, which comes with my laptop, so that's completely free. I don't need to pay for any editing software, but some people may also pay for editing software. And, that's before you even take into account the time factor that I spend researching and creating the content itself. And the truth is, even though I would love to offer everything for free, I am also running a business and it has real world costs. And so while it's really easy to assume that creators are just living the dream and doing what they love for fun, we also have to pay and make investments to keep this content flowing. So, those expenses don't just disappear. So I want to really dive in now to the free content that I offer on my platforms, because, that is where I think we don't value it. So I didn't really know how to start pricing this. And this was something else that came out of the conversation I had with my husband was, I have so much free content in blog posts, podcast episodes, freebies, teachable content that I have on Instagram. All of my Substack posts I would bundle under as a blog post. But, all of that stuff. And I thought, how can I realistically price this? And so I thought the easiest thing to do would be to base it on the UK minimum wage as a reference. That is not what I would charge for my hourly rate. My hourly rate would be higher, but I thought that was a very a very good place to start, as in if I was being paid the absolute minimum that I could be paid in the country that I live in, this is what all of my free content ultimately would cost. And it blew my own mind when I did when I did the maths and figured it out. And I wanted to share it with you guys so we can get a sense of just how much value is provided without any financial compensation. So this is just the free content that I create, right? So nothing to do with anything I do that's paid. This is how much, to this day that this episode will go live, how much free content I have on the internet that any of you, anybody in the world could access and get something from and not have to spend a single penny. It blew my mind. I think it's probably going to blow your mind too. Are you feeling overwhelmed by the hustle and grind of running your own business? What if I told you there was a way to slow down, simplify, and build a business that feels in harmony with your life and values? I want to share with you the Slow Business Bundle. It's a collection of 30 and more powerful resources designed to help you do just that. So whether you're a creator, a small business owner, or someone who's just tired of chasing endless to-do lists, then this bundle is for you. It includes actionable guides, tips and frameworks that will help you create a business that is not only sustainable but also deeply fulfilling as well. I created this bundle to help you build your business on your own terms with less stress and more joy. It is time to shift away from the chaos and embrace a slower, more intentional approach. And the best part, you can get your hands on it today for just £15. Don't let overwhelm hold you back. Grab your Slow Business Bundle now and start building a business that truly aligns with the life you want to live. Check the link in the show notes for more details or go to theslowlivingcollective.com/slowbusinessbundle. That's theslowlivingcollective.com/slowbusinessbundle. All right, let's dive into it. Let's have a look at all the free content that I offer across my platforms. Now, like I said, this is based on the UK minimum wage, just as a lowest point of entry, let's say, and I would charge more than this. But this is just so we can get a sense of how much value just free content can provide. So I have blog posts or Substack posts. I have published over 250 of these. So if you factor in the time I've spent researching, writing and editing these, that content repository alone is worth around £7,000, right? £7,000. That blew my mind. That absolutely blew my mind. Let's move on to podcast episodes. I've produced over 100 episodes of the Slow Living Collective, offering insights on slow, simple and seasonal living. That is over £5,000 worth of content based on the time spent recording, editing and promoting. Wow. Another thing that just blew my mind. Now, I have a bundle of freebies. I have so many different freebies. I don't advertise all of them all of the time. On my Stand store, like I mentioned earlier, I have a few, but actually integrated in a lot of my old content, you will find little freebies in there. So if you took a look at my Stand store, you might be like, oh, well, there's not that many freebies. But I think I worked out when I was talking to my husband, I have 17 freebies in my whole ecosystem. They can range from downloadable guides, templates, worksheets, all with the aim of helping people in their slow living journey. The total value of these freebies, based on hours spent creating it, comes to around, I think, £500. Okay, so again, a lot of money. I'm also, without blowing my own trumpet, I'm good at what I do. I can create blog post, podcast episode, freebies. I can do that quite quickly. And while I don't have a ton of freebies, I think 17 is more than enough to manage and maintain. So we've got 7,000 for blog posts / Substack posts, free Substack posts that is, £5,000 in podcast episodes, £500 worth of freebies. And then I also share a lot of teachable content on Instagram. So through Instagram, I share bite-sized tips and ideas on living a slower, simpler, more intentional life. I talk about seasonal living. I give tips on living in a small home. I give a lot of urban homesteading tips. There is a lot of stuff. And while this might seem simple at a glance, I spend absolutely hours creating content, writing captions, coming up with ideas which pop into my head at random. And I worked out that this comes to about £5,000 in value. £5,000. So as you can see, all of this free content really adds up. And if I were to charge based on UK minimum wage, based on the time I put into creating to it, that is over £17,000 worth of value provided, all without asking for anything in return. And let me be clear, I love doing it. But those numbers blew my mind. £17,000 worth of free content. What? I don't know if your mind is as blown as mine is, but I found that amazing. I didn't think about it when I started adding it up. I was in this sort of very much like ranty kind of state of mind when I was talking to my husband, and he's so good. Like, he always listens and validates my rants about things. And so when I was like, I'm going to add this up, and when I started adding it up, I was like, my goodness, £17,000 of free content. And that just grows and grows every single week. Every week I put out 2 posts on Substack. I put out a podcast episode. I'm posting all the time on Instagram. That number is going to just continue to steadily climb. And there are people out there who have a problem with me selling a £15 bundle, which, by the way, has 30 guides in it. That's 50 pence a guide. Let's break that down for a second. If every single one of those guides took 1 hour just to make it very simple and, straight, if it took 1 hour and we're going based on UK minimum wage, that's about £360 worth of content. I think it's probably closer to treble that. I think it's about £1,000 worth of content, to be perfectly honest with you. And, there are people out there who have a problem with me selling that. And not me personally, but creators doing things like this. And, those things that we do for free as creators, we do that without asking for anything in return. Nobody is being bribed into purchasing a paid option. If somebody can't afford something or they don't want something, nobody is forced to buy it. But I think it's time that we just stopped chastising people for actually wanting a little bit of return on the amount of value that they provide for free. And there's nothing wrong with that. I would say most people are very invested in creating good content and then creating exceptional paid content. I'm super passionate about what I do. I love doing it. It doesn't matter to me whether it's I'm providing £17,000 worth of free content or £170,000 of free content. I love doing it. I'm passionate about it. I want to help people slow down, simplify, live more intentionally. But we have to be honest, and that if it's more than a hobby, no one can just continue to create at that scale without some sort of compensation. Creators, they're not just trying to make money off people. A comment that I've seen online recently, they're not trying to make money off people by offering free content or paid content. They do it because they believe in what they are selling, what they are doing, what they are offering for free. They believe in helping people, offering resources, knowledge, guidance, etc., that can genuinely change their lives. But they can't keep doing it without receiving some sort of compensation for their time and their work. I can't do it, and you shouldn't either. And you shouldn't feel embarrassed for asking for it. like I said earlier, I've dealt with so many brands where they've asked me, I used to do a lot of brand work on Instagram when I had my old Instagram account. And I dealt with a lot of wonderful brands and a lot of not so wonderful brands. And, in the early days, if somebody offers you a product in exchange for, a review, like, you used to do it. But then once you've been in the industry for a while, you realize, like, I'm devaluing everybody's work when I do that. Because if I take a free product for exposure, or because I'm getting the free product, as nice as that is, there are people that do charge for that. I've charged for it in the past as well. Not something I do these days, something I stepped away from. But there's been so many times where a brand has been like, we love your profile, we love what you represent on Instagram, we would love to work with you. And I've been like, great. I look at who they are, largely I knew who they were, who the brand were, what their ethics are. And I'd be like, what is your budget? And I'd be like, oh, we don't have one. I was like, well, imagine that in anything else. Imagine going to your 9-to-5 job and them saying, oh, we've got this big project that we'd love you to work on. And you'd be like, great, how much am I getting paid for it? And they'd be like, oh, nothing, we haven't got a budget. Well, you're not going to go and work for free, are you? And it's no different. It's no different. Exposure doesn't do anything. Great. Okay. The thing is, like, a brand on Instagram says, like, oh, we'll share it, you share it, and then we'll share it, and we have, like, 100,000 subscribers. Yes, but they're probably not going to click through and follow me. Let's be honest. That's not really, I don't ever follow a brand and then go and follow if they've shared something, go and follow the people that it was originally from. That doesn't happen. Not often. And it's not going to give you the exposure that's really going to sort of help you financially and move the needle, is it really? And the thing is, like I said, exposure doesn't pay the bills. It doesn't buy shopping. It doesn't help me reinvest in my business. If I walk into, Costa for a coffee and say, hey, can I have a free coffee? And I'll take a picture of it and put it on my Instagram and you'll get the free exposure. I doubt they're going to hand me the cup. I really doubt it. They're probably going to be like, that's great, but that's £4, please. And this is the truth of it. Exposure doesn't feed my family or pay for the tools that I use to create the content or help me grow. We already did the maths. £65 a month is what it costs, and why that is not a massive outlay. There are lots of other things as well. A lot of time that is not factored into that. That is just the tools. And as creators, I think, we offer a lot of free content for a reason, because firstly, we want to, and it's a great way of sharing stuff with people and saying, hey, I'm here for you. Let's work through this together. Creating free content helps build trust, engagement, connection with an audience. And, free content, while it's amazing, like I keep saying, it doesn't pay the bills, and it doesn't allow us to keep creating at the level we want to. And that's where paid content comes in, because paid resources aren't about being greedy or just making money. They're about giving us the space and support to continue to offer even more value. So paid offerings might allow us to dive deeper, get more specific, provide people with a higher level of support. So, for example, let's take a look at my blog/Substack. I've written over 200 posts, 277, I think I've written. That is a lot of time spent researching, writing, editing, promoting. It's time away from my family. It's hours spent on my laptop. It's brain power that I pour into creating something that will hopefully help you move forward. And the same goes for this podcast, where I've recorded more than 100 episodes. That's countless hours of brainstorming, scripting, recording, editing, promoting, right, to bring you the best that I've got. I don't touch perfection, right? So, sometimes I stutter, sometimes you get a bunch of but I do my best to bring you the best I've got. And all of these free resources, whether it's Substack or blog posts, podcast episodes, freebies themselves, Instagram content, it is all designed to help you make progress in either your own life or starting up a business. But then if you wanted to go deeper and you wanted to get more hands-on support or work together to make a real transformative change, then that's where my paid resources come in. That's where you'll get access to my slow, simple and seasonal living course rooted in seasons, which will give you a massive transformative change in the way you think, feel, act and approach slow, simple and seasonal living. Or maybe my slow business bundle, like I said, it has over 30 guides, PDFs, workbooks, resources to help you take the next step. These things are about giving you the tools to get the results you desire, and it allows me to continue creating at the level I do. So I'm just going to throw this question out there, and you'll feel free to come over to my Substack and answer it. What's one thing you would pay for that's helped you in your life or business? Whether it's a coaching session, a course, a resource, drop it in the comments, share it. And let's talk about how investing in ourselves can lead to bigger and better things. Because, let's change the conversation. This doesn't have to be something of mine. It can be of anybody's. But just one thing that you would pay for that's helped you in your life or business. So this model of offering both free and paid content is not just sustainable, but it is essential for the growth of both creators and their audiences. Because when you support a creator by purchasing a course or a resource or any paid offering, you're not just helping them make money, you're investing in the future of the content you love. You're enabling people like me to continue creating high quality, valuable work, whether it's free blog posts, free podcasts, free social media content. The reality is that creators need to be compensated for the work they do so that they can keep producing at a high level. If all I did was give away everything for free, I would burn out and I would have nothing left to give. But when you pay for a course or a resource, you are literally helping me keep the lights on and reinvest in the tools, the time, the energy that is needed to keep making great free content. Because let's be honest, most of it is free. And if it's not affordable to invest in a paid option, no one is judging you. Now, I'm not behind the scenes like, let me look at this list. These people have been here a while and they've not invested anything. I don't pay any attention to any kind of analytics on anything. I know lots of people. I used to really look at my podcast downloads, but they're nothing. They're vanity metrics. They mean nothing. It doesn't matter whether you post an Instagram reel and it gets 100 views versus somebody who posts one and it gets 10,000 views. It doesn't mean anything. The person who got 100 views might have made 50 sales, and the person with 10,000 views maybe doesn't have anything to sell. I have a post, a really old Instagram reel. It has like 325,000 views on it when I last looked, which was probably a year ago. But it doesn't lead to anything. It didn't give me anything. It gave me a lot of comments and quite a lot of follows at the time. But it didn't give me anything else. It didn't move the needle physically in my business. Whereas there are times I've posted an Instagram reel and it's been like a low number, because that's the thing with Instagram, is you never know. But it has moved the needle on my business. So vanity metrics don't mean anything. They don't mean anything at all. I could have a fairly low reaching podcast episode that actually gets subscribers or sales, and I could have a high reaching podcast episode that doesn't get any of that. So they are just vanity metrics. They don't mean anything. These numbers, they're not anything. If you have 100 followers on Instagram versus somebody who has 100,000, they might not be making any more money than you are. So, these metrics, they don't mean anything, and I really think we shouldn't focus on them. That's probably for another episode. But, when we support creators, it ensures that they will keep creating and sharing the value that, let's be honest, we all benefit from. I'm talking about myself in terms of a creator because, like I said, I'm the best example I have. This is really common for creators. So every time one of us invests in a paid offering, it just helps keep that momentum going. There is nothing more exciting. So just a bit of transparency here. I have been selling up until the end of January. I've been selling my Slow Business Bundle for $12.99. I've recently put it up just to £15, so not by much. And out of that $12.99, I got £12.56 of that. You would not believe how exciting it is to me when I open my emails and I see something that says one of the following. So it could be someone has purchased from your stand store, and I'll go and have a look. £12.56 for a Slow Business Bundle, or on Substack you have a paid subscriber. Like, those things bring me absolute joy, and they're not, I'm not suddenly a millionaire from these things. We're talking about £12.56 for a Slow Business Bundle, and we're talking somewhere in the region of £2.50 for a monthly paid subscriber on Substack, up to £25 for my for the annual membership. And that's because I've been doing it at a 50% discount. And so, we're not talking about like I'm opening an email and being like, I've just made £10,000. We're talking about really small money, but it gives me such a boost, such a boost, and it really does keep the momentum going, and it just makes me just feel excited. It gives the freedom to grow and experiment and explore new ideas, and obviously, we're not talking about like selling one thing. Obviously these things, they add up over time, but it just helps you stop burning out or losing steam. So I want you to maybe reframe in your mind about how we think about creators and what they offer, because you can't offer everything for free, and it's as simple as that. So let's dive into that. Let's talk about this shift that really needs to happen in how society views creators, because I really think it's time to rethink the ideas that creators should be working for free, or that charging for work somehow makes them greedy or less authentic. We need to recognise that creators are running real businesses, and like any business, they deserve to be compensated for their time, their expertise, and the value that they bring. So let's, instead of expecting them to just give it all away for free, let's start thinking about how we can support them in ways that allow them to keep doing what they love. So here's a fun way to think about it. If you love it, support it. That is it. If you find value in someone's work, whether it's a podcast, a post, a course, social media content, then support them so that they continue to create. And that doesn't mean you've got to dig into your purse and pay, because there is so many ways you can help. It might be buying a product. It might be signing up for a course or joining a membership. But it can also be something as simple as sharing. That we hear it all the time, but that can be so helpful because it helps other people find their content. So, I have gained subscribers or followers on Instagram when someone has shared my content. You get like a little influx. And so that can be so beneficial because, you might be thinking like, I can't afford what this creator has to offer, but I do love the free content that they share, so I'm going to share it. And one of the people that sees what you share might then go and follow them and invest in a £10,000 course. You don't know. And, so sharing can be, just as impactful as putting your hand in your own pocket and paying. No one is saying that you have to pay for everything. You have to make sure you're subscribing to everybody's paid content. It's not about that at all, but it is about valuing the free content that exists. And it is about giving creators the same level of respect as literally every other single person who works on this planet. Because we need to stop thinking that creators charging for their time and work is a bad thing. And it is honestly mind-blowing that in 2025 we are still having this conversation. I have been having this conversation for nearly 20 years. I am tired. But let's think about it. Every single job, every single industry in the world involves people getting paid for their time, their expertise, and their effort. A solicitor charges for their hours. A teacher is paid for the knowledge they share and the time they work. Yet somehow, when it comes to creators, whether they're bloggers, writers, podcasters, artists, content creators, the same respect isn't given. And I just want to know why. Because, like I said, it's time that creators got the same level of respect as everyone else. Because when we share our knowledge and our expertise and our creativity with the world, it all takes real time, energy and skill. And just like any other professional, creators deserve to be compensated for it. The idea that creators should just be grateful for the exposure or the love they receive is just... it's such a disservice to the hard work that goes into building a business and creating valuable content. So it's not about being greedy. It's just about sustainability and fairness. If you value the content, knowledge or work that a creator is putting out there, then find a way that you can support them that allows them to continue thriving. Because they aren't any different. They work hard, they offer a service, and they deserve to be paid for it. So, and I'm not, like I said, I'm not saying that you have to pay for everything, but I think we just need to shift the mindset around creators earning money, whether we're investing our money into their paid options or not. I think we just need to rethink how this idea that people are being greedy because they want to be compensated for their work, because it's gross, isn't it? Because most creators are putting hours and hours of time and effort and money into bringing so much free value. And, you know, when we support them, even with free stuff, even with a like, it helps keep the entire creative ecosystem alive. So I hope that was helpful. Thank you so much for tuning in today. And I really hope this episode gave you some valuable insights into why supporting creators is so important and how it helps just make the content that you love possible. Because however you invest in a creator, whether it's free or paid, you just support their ability to keep growing and offering more value to the world. If you're looking for more ways to dive even deeper into the work I do, then be sure to check out my free offerings. I have, like I said, over 250 posts on my Substack. You can find that at theslowlivingcollective.substack.com, and also on this podcast, which is the Slow Living Collective podcast, and you can find that wherever you listen to podcasts, or you're listening to it now, so I guess you've already found me. But you know, I share in both places, I share tons of tips on slow, simple, seasonal living, as well as so many helpful resources for building a mindful, intentional life. And if you're ready to take it a step further, or you want to take it a step further, I've got some paid resources like my Slow Business Bundle, a collection of over 30 guides and PDFs to help you grow the business you'll love. Or my Rooted in Seasons course, a transformative experience designed to guide you completely shift that mindset into living more slowly, simply and seasonally. Now you can find all the details for this in the show notes for this episode, which you can find over on Substack. The link again is theslowlivingcollective.substack.com. You can also find everything in my Instagram bio. I'm on Instagram at the Slow Living Collective. And if you're unable to invest, no worries. Simply sharing my work with others who would benefit is incredibly helpful and just so appreciated. Don't feel like you have to invest, but I just wanted to guide us through this idea that we have this really poor way as a society of viewing creators, and how can we change that? How can we make that different? And so I hope it's been helpful. I hope it's been interesting. I would love to know if the fact that my free content being worth a minimum of £17,000 blew your mind as much as it did mine, because I'm still mind blown by that, and I'm scared to work out how much it would be if I actually put my hourly rate to it. Let's do that. Let's do that quickly before we go. Okay, I shouldn't have done that, because I reckon it's around £40,000. That's huge. That is mind-blowing. Anyway, thank you guys so much for listening to today's episode, and I would love to know what you think. Come over to Substack. Again, that's theslowlivingcollective.substack.com. Leave me a comment. I would love to know your thoughts on this. I'd love to know the inner workings of your brain, what you thought of the episode, what you think about creative industries and the way they're represented, what you think about creators offering paid content. Let me know it all. I would love to see you there. Come leave me a comment, and I will catch you in my next episode.